Geico presents Our Town, Season 4, a 30-minute podcast produced by Best Bark Communications, a small but fierce client-centered marketing company powered by decades of experience and well-established business networks. Geico, 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance. Now, here's your host, Andy Ockershausen.
This is Andy Ockershausen. This is Our Town. And I am so delighted to welcome a young man to our town who I met on a cold morning for breakfast at a place in Bethesda. And welcome to our town, David Blair.
Thank you, Andy. It's great to be here.
It was such a great morning because Doro Cook and Eric Schuster, said, you got to come and meet David Blair. I didn't know you from the Man in the Moon. And Doro called and said, you got to do it, and her sister-in-law. And we met for breakfast, and they announced to me that you were planning to run for Montgomery County executive. And I was impressed.
That's right. I remember that breakfast well.
And you did. And,
yeah.
and you couldn't have had a better supporter than Doro Cook and Eric Schuster. Of course, it didn't help you win the seat or win the position, but you must have had a wonderful time, David.
It's an incredible experience. So it was a life-changing experience, and the amount of gratitude that I feel for having been through that process, no regrets with running. It was that phenomenal.
Well, for no other reason than that just in the race, that politicians deserve a lot of credit. I don't want to credit is bigger than credit, but they really throw their lives into it. It's not a casual job.
So
full time.
It was the hardest thing I've done. So I ran a public company for 15 years, and I thought that was hard. And we used to say, "Oh wow, we have to work for a week on this project, or we have to pull an all-nighter." Running for office was, up early, 7 a.m., home, 9 or 10 o'clock, and then it was 7 days a week. And so one of the challenges was you never got a chance to exhale. Like it was like you would look at your calendar at like 10 o'clock, the night before, the next day, and you just went all day. And it was an extremely hard thing to do.
But you were managed because you have to do that. But before we get to your political career, I'd like to talk about the early David Blair. Are you a native of Montgomery County?
I am. Born and raised here.
And you went to where'd you go to high school?
So I was born in Silver Spring. Most of my life I was in Darnestown as a kid growing up, and went to the Darnestown Elementary School, and there was a middle school out there, and then I ended up going to high school at Bullis, which is in Potomac.
Great school.
Yeah,
great school.
It was.
It used to be in the city years ago, but that was before your time.
That's right.
But Bullis is had a lot of great graduates of Bullis that went into to college and so forth. And then you decided to stay in Montgomery County. I mean, you opened your first business in Montgomery County, or?
I did. So I went to school at Clemson University.
Oh, that's right.
And
we got to hear about Clemson here, guys.
Well, so now it's easy to talk about them because of their football team.
Wow.
And but then I came back here and had degrees in finance and accounting. And my dad had been a serial entrepreneur. So as a kid growing up, it just seemed like that was the thing that you do. And so I worked for a couple of different individuals in the city. And then when I was in my mid-20s, I said, okay, I got to do like Dad and start a company. So that's what I did.
Oh, my. And you continued to evolve in companies and bigger companies, and you always stayed in Montgomery County.
We always had our corporate headquarters right here in Rockville. That's right.
Well, that's a blessing for the county to have young people like you who are so aggressive. And you then decided to get married and raise a family in Montgomery County. It all comes back to this county, doesn't it?
It does. And I know we'll talk about this more later, but it's one of the reasons that I ran for county executives, because as a lifelong resident, I have obviously bleed Montgomery County.
And you live in Potomac now. Still in Potomac?
That's correct, yes.
But you have a home. In fact, I'm one of the few people you'll know. I know where Royal Oak is. I have friends over there on the Eastern Shore, and that is God's country. And you also have a place in the mountains, in your ski country, Madison County.
That's right, in Montana.
That's
right.
But it's near Missoula.
Big Sky, Montana. It's near Big Sky. Yes.
I know where that is.
Okay.
Absolutely. Your first chance at politics was to go for the Big Apple, which is the county executive. Why in the world did you not start in the lower level?
Well, as an executive, pretty much my entire professional career, I was used to running things, bringing a sense of leadership, oversight on a budget, financial discipline. And our company was a similar size of our county government, roughly $6 billion budget. So to me,
$6 billion.
$6 billion. That's right. Be with a bit.
That's not walking around money.
And it's where I felt like I could have the greatest impact. And I worked with, and I still work with the Bipartisan Policy Center in Washington, D.C. It's a tremendous organization. And having spent a couple of years with them, they were telling me that where you can have your biggest impact is local politics. And have the Montgomery County guy, I've seen the direction of the county. I was like, okay, this is the place I've called home. It looks different than it did when I was growing up. I'm concerned, and had some ideas about how we could get us, on the right track.
Well, and then you decided to had you always been a Democrat, or were you involved with the Democrat organization before you jumped in?
So I was a Republican when I was 18. My dad was a Republican, so I was a registered Republican for. But then I switched party affiliations in my late 20s. But I've always affiliated myself more with the Democratic Party than the Republicans.
Well, one of the things it would appear to me, you've got a better chance running as a Democrat. The Republican in Montgomery will never be elected. Even Robin knows that. We're talking about Robin Ficker, but he keeps throwing his hat in the ring, and he loves it, but you never get elected as a Republican. So you decided to run as a Democrat. Now, how did you meet Doro Cook? Because if there's anybody more Republican than Doro, I don't know her.
Well, and one of the things that I was most proud of is Doro changed her party affiliation to a Democrat so she could vote for me in the primary.
She was your champion.
Yeah, and so we became friends with Doro probably about 5 years ago, just through mutual friends. And she's been a big part of our lives. She's helped us in a number of different business. So my wife has a business called Badlands. It's a kids indoor learning center. And Doro helped Michael, my wife, get that business started, several years ago.
Where is Michael born in the U.S.? Is she local?
She was born in Oklahoma, and she moved here maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Michael.
Yes. I usually just say my wife, so people are like...
I love Michael because that's a great name for a girl.
Yeah. Family name.
But Doro it was very deeply involved in literacy, as you know, and from her mother. Yeah. Barbara, and she had to say for Montgomery County. I got Comcast, which was our own old company that owned my company, involved financially with Doro's effort, and she always would invite me and Eric and whoever I would select to her show with the reading and so forth, which I always was so powerful. I hope that you understand what she's into because it's dynamite.
So I don't know that I know anybody that's more kind or more generous with their time than Doro. She's just been a phenomenal friend, and she's been great for our community.
Well, I had a conversation with Doro about a guest on our town, and she was absolutely delighted to do it, but she had to go to Maine. She was taking care of her father. Mm-hmm. She was sort of like replaced her mother in that role, and they spent all the time up in Maine, and she promised me, though, after the year or whatever she was with her dad, she would come back and work with me. So we're waiting for Doro Cook, but in the meantime, we got David Blair, who is Doro's discovery. And you're right, if you can find somebody better than Doro, you're a lucky person, David.
So, Andy, I'll just share this quick story that popped in my mind. One day on the campaign, we're in our campaign office, and we're all working really hard, and Doro's there. And she comes into, she jumps up in front of me. She's got her phone with me. She says, "Hey, David, I want you to say hi to my dad." And she's FaceTiming her dad, right? President Bush.
HW.
Yeah. And so now, and President Bush is like giving me advice, like in complimenting me. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. It was a really neat moment to be talking to the former president. Yeah. It was quite a day.
And that's a wonderful thing. I'll give you my George Bush story. This is Andy Ockerzal, and this is Our Town. We're talking with David Blair.
Technology Truths, brought to you by Geico.
Technology Truths.
Truth. You have 14 login passwords, and you can't remember any of them.
Doug 1. Doug 2. Doug is awesome. Doug is awesome 1, 2, 3.
Truth. It's so easy to switch and save on car insurance at geico.com.
Doug is super cool &_! 1985. Knew it.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
This is Attorney Mike Collins. Come to my seminar and I'll explain in plain English all you need to know about wills, trusts, taxes, probate, and how to keep your money in your family. I'll show you how to eliminate those dread death taxes and avoid the expense and delay of probate. See how our Reservoir Trust can protect your family's inheritance from lawsuits and the divorce court. Thousands of your neighbors have already attended. So watch the mail for your special invitation and register now at MikeCollins.com. That's MikeCollins.com.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen. Brought to you by Best Bark Communications.
This is Andy Ockershausen in Our Town. I'm talking to David Blair, and he had a great story to tell me about the president of the United States, formerly H.W. Bush. I had a television show, you can believe it or not, David, called Our Town. It was on Channel 50. It was my station. I was president and working with the company and so forth. And the owner suggested I do a show because it's all about Washington. And we called it Our Town. And we did it on a remote from a restaurant called Duke Zebra's.
Oh, sure.
That doesn't exist anymore. That was one of Washington's landmarks. And the same opportunity I would have, I appreciate very much with you, is having people as guests, special people. And you certainly are one of the most special people, and I mean that sincerely. And I had the opportunity to do this show, and I had also went to a receiving line with some friends I grew up with, and we've gone to the receiving line with George H.W. Bush, who I had met playing tennis and on the court and so forth. We weren't intimate, and he said, he shook me, he grabbed my hand, and said, "Andy, good to see you." He said, I didn't know you were television. I saw your show. You're really good. And I'm flabbergasted. I don't know what, the President of the United States. And I said, "Well, thank you very much, Mr. President." I said, "Why in the world?" That show was on Sunday morning, like 6:30 a.m. He said, "Well, we were at Camp David, and Barbara and I get up early when we're up in the country, and we got up and turned on the TV, and there you were." I was so stunned. I mean, and the guys behind me, well, they couldn't believe it either. The guy took the time to do that. That's what a class guy, George H.W.
And it runs right through Dora, doesn't it? Like you can see where Dora
Blood.
gets it. Yep.
Isn't that amazing?
Really is.
And her mother was delightful, and what they did for literacy in the state of Maryland was fabulous.
Incredible.
And you're going to do it, David, because you're going to stay in politics, I hope, and would consider running again.
For sure. And so and I'm not going to drift off into the shadows. I very much expect to stay relevant here. And
you work for the county, do you not? As a unpaid assistant, what? I'd seen something in your obituary, not your obituary. How close is that, Johnny? How stupid am I? But your PR firm has put out the word that you are assistant and a county executive of some kind.
That's correct. Yep. So I've been on Ike Leggett's economic advisory group for the last several years, helping them come up with policies around how to cultivate business growth in the county. Yeah.
And, well, your name is getting around through politics, and as a result of this run, it's gotten around through the public now, too, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And even though this program is not the night after the election, we're going to talk about it because I'm sure you have some opinion about what happened in Montgomery County. There's no surprise there, correct?
That's right. No surprises. Yeah.
And how about nationally? Are you surprised at all?
No, I think just a tremendous relief that the Democrats have taken control of the House. That's, that we need a governor on the administration, and we can hopefully they can, slow down some of the backward policies that we've seen come out of D.C.
David, I have lived through many changes. If I recall, it hasn't been that long ago when Barack Obama went on television and said, "We got shellacked." Mm-hmm. Because he lost the House, if you remember that.
Sure.
So it's happened. It's back and forth in our society, and I think it's probably a very, very good thing. There are ups and downs on both parties.
I think we need a healthy debate, and it will be good. It can't be worse than it was for sure.
Well, it's just I hope that I'm reading in the paper this should drive the parties to bipartisanship, but I've read that before because I've heard all of that. I go back to Harry Truman, and I heard about it under Eisenhower that he was going to be the great conciliator, and they blew Eisenhower away. I mean, the Democrats took over.
Right.
He won, but the party didn't win. So we've seen it again. We saw that with Reagan. Mm-hmm. They said the press thought that the Democratic Party was dead. They'd never make a comeback after Reagan won all those electoral votes. Guess what? That's not true. They made a great comeback.
Yeah.
And they always will, and both parties will. They'll go up and down, which is what makes us a great society.
Yes, yeah.
Remember that Lyndon Johnson, the Great Society, came out of Texas, and it was a congressman. You knew that, didn't
Sure,
you?
I
Started
did,
as a
yeah.
congressman,
But no,
grew
it's
up to be a senator.
No, it's unbelievably cyclical how this happens, and I don't know if one party starts to get confident and thinks that they can outreach toward their what they should be doing, but then sure enough, the other party comes storming back and just over and over again.
People change, David.
That's right.
Now, how are you with the children? Are they happy with your political career?
So
Your children.
You know what? So the teenagers generally are so selfish that they are much more worried about themselves than me. The little kids, we have a 7-year-old and 8-year-old, and I think they appreciate that I lost because I was gone so much.
I'm sure
that
of that.
they were kind of rooting for that. And then they're very insensitive because they'll see signs on the road and they'll say, "So, Dad, you came in second place, right?" I'm like, "Huh." So there's no prize for second. So we
Be
lost.
quiet, sit in the back.
I'm like, "Thanks for reminding me we lost." And they even know that I lost by 77 votes, so they'll talk about that too. They think that that's a big number. That 77 is a lot.
Well, you didn't really. You lost, but you also won. You won the opportunity to run, to appear before the public, and you offered yourself as a candidate. That's a tremendous accomplishment.
Well, I would suggest to all of your listeners that if anybody's thinking about running, run. It's such an incredible thing to do, and you get an appreciation for democracy that we all know it, that every person has one vote, right? We all know that.
Right.
But when you're out there shaking hands at the metro stops or wherever, you start to realize it doesn't matter your age, your religion, your race. Like everybody's one vote, and so it's a phenomenal thing that kind of hits you like, okay, it's extremely humbling.
Well, I can share it because I was never a candidate, but I was very active years ago in the Republican and the Democrat Party in Alexandria. I lived in Virginia. But the experience that I felt is through the candidates was great. I remember one time polling with one of my candidates who was running for the city council, and he was knocking on doors, and I was trailing him, and he knocked on the door. Lady opened the door. He said, "Good evening, man." He said, "I'm Harvey Cohen, and I'm running for city council." She said, "I hate you." Boom, slammed the door. And I said, "How can she hate you? She doesn't know you." He said, "They always know you." But that was my introduction to partisan politics.
Yeah.
She never gave him a chance.
But
He ran. It
And
worked
so-
like a dog.
So you have to treat everybody the same because everybody has one vote. And so one of the stories that makes me smile is I'm at a metro stop and I'm trying to shake hands and talk to everybody. And this fella comes up to me and he's not well dressed. And I do my best 2-minute speech why you should vote for David Blair. And he goes, "I'm sorry. I just want to know if I could have the rest of your coffee."
That's good.
Sure, I like it.
Yep. So that's you never know
Hope
who.
train, huh?
That's right.
But great experiences. So you, even though you lost, you won. You got a lot out of that campaign,
Right.
did you?
Well, and the best thing were the friendships. I had when we kind of wrote down the pros and cons of running, we never thought about the new relationships. I have friends now that people I've met that I'll have for the rest of my life, and the gratitude that you have because people will open up their homes, they'll have fundraisers for you, and you feel this guilt, like how can I ever possibly pay these people back? So the new friendships is probably the true blessing that we didn't expect and we'll have for the rest of our lives.
Well, David, it probably one of the reasons you're successful, because in life, the secret of life is when you give, you get back more than you gave, and that's true in business or whatever you're doing. When you give, it really pays off.
I agree. I totally and not to digress, but on the business front, we were so generous with our employees because you would get back so much. And so one of the things that we had something called a wedding benefit. And so if you got married at my company, you got $1,000 and an extra week's vacation. And it started when we were a really small company, and a guy, Matt, in accounts payable, came to me and he was telling me about his honeymoon. They went to Niagara Falls. I go, "Oh, that must have been really pretty." He goes, No, you don't understand. In the wintertime, it's frozen, and so it's really cheap. And so he couldn't afford a honeymoon. So I was like, went to HR, I said, "Okay, we're going to come up with a wedding benefit." And then when we got to be thousands of employees, it was just revered, this benefit. And one of the funny things is, as we would buy companies, so let's say we go buy a company that's got 400 or 500 employees, the number of weddings that would happen within the next couple of weeks, because people had been living together for years, and they're like, "Well, I never wanted to marry her, but for $1,000 I'll get married."
What a great story, Dave.
Yeah,
It's
and we
so
had,
true.
And we had a lot of benefits.
Money is the most important thing you can do for them.
Yeah.
When they get me, you give them a toaster or an oven or something, or a refrigerator, but give them cash. They really respond to that, do they not?
It was cash and an extra week's vacation, and people loved it. And so we had a number of fun things like that.
That's why you were so successful.
Well, what triggered it was when you said, when you give, you get back. And I think one of the reasons our company was successful is because we gave so much, and then we got it back. And
the employees, they loved it. And it shows, David. Yeah. Well, we're going to start now talking about your philosophical career as a sportsman. And this is Our Town with David Blair, future Montgomery County executive.
Hi, Tony Sybil here to tell you about Tony and Joe's and Nick's Riverside Grill at Washington Harbor in Georgetown. Spectacular new restaurants. We've spent a lot of time rebuilding. You'll love it. It's really fantastic. For any information, you can go online to tonyandjoes.com. It'll be a wonderful experience for the whole family. Call 202-944-4545 to make reservations. Everything is fabulous. You've got to come down and have some wonderful food.
Hi, I'm Charles Mann. For athletes like me, playing every down in a pro game is like getting in a car accident. After years of playing football in Washington, my body is broken. I've had countless surgeries and joint replacements. I've been looking for a non-surgical treatment since I ended my career. I heard a radio ad for a seminar about alternative treatment. It's called regenerative medicine, which stimulates your own body to heal and repair itself. No surgery, no more pain. That got my attention. I went to a seminar to learn firsthand all about it. Now you too can benefit and receive this treatment. This is the same procedure that pro athletes use to quickly and effectively recover from injury. If you're looking to eliminate your pain and arthritis, or if you thought surgery was your only option, take the first step like I did. Call 410-787-7250. Register for the next seminar and learn more about this breakthrough procedure. Seating is limited. Register now by calling 410-787-7250 and start living life again.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen.
This is Andy Ockershausen, and with David Blair. That's a name that you will hear a lot of in the future, because I think he is epitome of a young man that's on the move up for the good of people. And David, and then you introduce yourself as a sportsman by joining Monumental Sports. Are you a stockholder, advisor, or paid? I mean, Monumental Sports to me is a huge endeavor.
So I'm a partner and an investor, and so Ted Leonsis is the majority owner, and he's a super gracious, generous man, and he allowed me to buy in, and a sliver, if you will, many years ago, and it's been a phenomenal experience.
What great for you to be, because you're with the hoi polloi of the city with his group in Lincoln Holdings. So I know most of the people. They have really supported Ted, and of course Ted has given back. There's another example, guy. He's given so much to our city, but look what he's gotten back: a Stanley Cup.
So he is so generous, and if you look at the things that Monumental Sports has done from a philanthropic perspective over the last decade, it really warms your heart. And then most recently, now that they won the Stanley Cup, to give that back to the city, and the incredible day we had last spring with that parade and all the people that came out, and the joy that brought was fabulous.
That was a city endeavor of magnitude. The only thing close to that has been when the Redskins win a Super Bowl, because that's older and it's a lot more area wide. I grew up in the city of Washington. I never saw a hockey team till the Caps arrived, because we didn't have hockey in my town. And he's brought that in. Of course, Abe did that, and with his stadium, and then putting it in the middle of the city, and Leonsis has capitalized on that. I love it.
It's great. It's just been great. And as I grew up in this area, and I was a diehard Washington Redskin fan, and it's just been too long, right, since we've been back to the Super Bowl.
Been a long time. It may still be a long time. David, I'm trying to think of so many people I know that you're involved with. For Raul is on your board.
Sure, Fernandez.
We're involved with him with Don Bosco Cristo Rey School.
Yep.
Out in Tacoma Park, and he's a great guy. I worked with him for years on something called Fight Night. That sort of was a phenomenon in our town, as if you remember, and it was a great experience to be with all these people. What's the man's name? Rails, that has that museum.
Oh, sure.
And Potomac. Have you seen his museum?
I have. Yeah, that's fabulous. Yeah.
That must be a fab. That was Mitch, right?
Yeah,
Mitch
Rails.
Rail.
Yeah.
I mean, what these people are doing is, and now you're associated with that group. So what are your feelings now about the? What are you going to do about the Wizards now? He bought the Wizards. He fell into that. He got stuck with the Wizards after the Caps.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep. So they're struggling. So they're off to a slow start, but season's still early. So, you know.
David, it's professional NBA. Cities would give their youngest born for an NBA franchise. You know that? Yeah. It's golden, and it'll eventually get straightened out. I hope so for the stockholders.
Well, and I think for the fan base. I mean, the difference when you go to a Capitals game versus a Wizards game, and you see the enthusiasm behind a winning team. I'd love to see that happen at the Wizards games, where you have sold out crowds. You know, no one's cheering for the opposition, and hopefully we'll get there.
Well, that was true for a while when Michael was here. Remember that?
That was great.
The years that Michael was here, and I go back to the Bullets, of course, and moved from Baltimore over here. You're too young to remember that. They were the Baltimore Bullets, and Abe brought them over, and we did the broadcast for him on WMAL. And then when he had the hockey team, we started broadcasting hockey on WMAL. And so I got very close to Abe, and I know he was really committed to the city, and it paid off when he decided to build that and pay for that stadium himself.
Right.
So you guys own the field now too. I mean, you own the stadium.
We do. That's
Lincoln
correct.
Holding.
That's correct. Yeah.
And I know Ted was feeling that the tax break was unfair. That he wasn't getting much of a break. And I hope the city realizes that, how important that facility is. And I hope and pray he doesn't move.
No, I don't think there's any plans to. And we just opened up the practice facility in D.C.
Yeah, up in there, St. Elizabeth.
That's correct. That's right. And that's a great place. So that'll bring some business activity there.
You know, that's good for our town. Everything's happening up on the hill there. And it's been so good for Mississippi Avenue. I was associated for years with the Police Boys and Girls Club, and we had a clubhouse up there on Mississippi Avenue. And we had the best time to bring that community together, and it worked. But, David, I can't thank you enough for doing this, sticking your neck out, and sticking your neck out for the county executive, and now sticking your neck on our town.
Well, thank you, Andy. I really appreciate the time with you today.
And we look forward to your next race, David, and we'll be with you all the way.
Okay. Thank you.
This is Andy Ockershouse, and this has been Our Town with David Blair.
You've been listening to Our Town Season 4, presented by Geico, our hometown favorite, with your host, Andy Ockershausen. New Our Town episodes are released each Tuesday and Thursday. Drop us a line with your comments or suggestions. See us on Facebook or visit our website at OurTownDC.com. Our special thanks to Ken Hunter, our technical director, and WMAL Radio in Washington, D.C. And thanks to Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance.